Bear Bachmeyer's back at BYU. Is Bear Bachmeier a legitimate Heisman candidate? And is BYU a Big 12 title favorite? Now, I didn't say the Big 12 title favorite. Are they a Big 12 title favorite? There are two key questions we've got to answer in order to determine that, okay? So it's been a pretty good week for BYU in terms of announcements. We got a social media announcement yesterday from Bear Bachmeier that he is coming back. Keanu Tanavasa also announced that at the BYU basketball game. Side note, that AJ DeBonsta, the dunk that he had, the windmill going into the lane off the dribble, crazy, man. That guy is nuts. It was awesome to watch him in person in Manhattan recently. Anyway, Bear Bachmeier's back. Isaiah Glasker is back. That happened earlier this week. Tanavasa obviously is back. We know about Parker Kingston has announced that he is back. Satuwala, the safety, is back. BYU has done an incredible retention job. I saw also that the BYU TV guys said that it sounds like Evan Johnson is expected back. He has not made an announcement yet, but he is expected back. So BYU has done a terrific job with retention, and it obviously starts and ends with Bear Bachmeier. Man, in this era, that is incredibly hard to do. I do want to emphasize that is so difficult to do. And that's not even taking into account that Kyle Whittingham, a guy from within your state that has ties to like everybody on your staff, and with how often players are following staff, especially when they're jumping from Power 4 to Power 2, to withstand that and have the roster retention that BYU had speaks so loudly, screams about the BYU culture, about Kalani Sitake, about how important he is and what he has built there. If you got concerns about Jay Hill being gone, like, I get it. I do. But I think this should put some of those fears to bed to see how much the players really believe in what's going on there from the top down, and not just that it was this defensive coordinator, Jay Hill, right? But as far as Bear goes, I guess if you want to say, hey, John, look at Damon Williams. Like, he signed a deal to go back to Washington and then reneged on it. Yeah, okay. I mean, I don't think Bear Bachmeier is the type of guy that's going to do that. But if that's your concern, then all right, you got to worry for a little bit over another week until the portal shuts. So maybe just like a tiny bit of you going to be on alert. But like, if we're talking about Heisman candidate and Big 12 title candidate, which the question about being a Big 12 title candidate is different, and I'll give you more on that in just a moment than the one I'm going to ask right now. But Heisman candidate for Bear Bachmeier, to me, the answer is yes, he should be considered a preseason Heisman candidate. I mean, one of the best freshman seasons in college football history for a true freshman quarterback. What he did last year, you contextualize the history of that. There are not very many others that can stand toe-to-toe with what Bachmeier did last season. Now he's back, and I just rattled off the infrastructure of the team. It's still there. Now, LJ Martin might go pro. We'll see what happens with that. I know some of the latest mocks and projections were like 6th rounder or so for him. So, stay tuned. We'll see. But if LJ Martin were to come back, obviously, then it's like, man, you're basically just getting the whole band back together and doing this thing again. Run it back. Got Bear Bachmeier a new weapon today, receiver out of the transfer portal at Oregon that I think has battled some injuries and played sparingly over 3 years, but somebody that could be a Chase Roberts replacement. Bear Bachmeier's got infrastructure. He's got culture. He's got a great head coach. His offensive coordinator, despite the rumors about Aaron Roderick for a moment there, still intact, still in place, second year working with him. And as far as name ID goes, which I think is something that is fairly important for the Heisman voting, Bear Bachmeier is going to start with a ton of name ID. I mean, even for those who are like casual college football fans, a lot of people I think know Bear Bachmeier. BYU was enough of a national story, not as much as they should have been, but enough of one that there was discussion about him. He's got a really catchy name. He's got a catchy, memorable name, right? That'll help. And no matter what happens, whether LJ Martin's back or not, like, Bear Bachmeier is going to shoulder a bunch of the load offensively, a bunch of the load. You saw how much that happened this past year. You don't want to have to run him maybe as much as BYU did this year, but he's still going to run. He'll make some highlight plays. He's so durable. I mean, there are all these different factors that I think lead to him probably playing, probably putting up big numbers, and BYU's probably going to win double-digit games again next year. Because I'm also seeing, shout out to my guy, Deckard667 here, who says, John, if you didn't hear, LJ Martin back as well. He announced it just a little bit ago on Instagram. Okay, there it is. LJ Martin's back. Hammer home another piece of the puzzle there when it comes to the infrastructure around Bear Bachmeyer. So thank you, Deckard. That is very timely. And not only did you do something for me, but you donated in order to do that. Thank you, my friend. Thank you, my friend, for that. That helps a lot. I think absolutely Bachmeier is going to be on some preseason Heisman lists. The bigger question is going to be, are they legitimate Big 12 title contenders? Texas Tech's going to have a more talented roster, like full stop. BYU, I think, obviously has beefed up the amount of financial support they have for the roster. I think, yeah, absolutely had to have it. That has shown up in spades by the fact that they didn't get totally rated by Michigan and a bunch of guys didn't go to Jay Hill. I'm sure they had to pay those guys pretty handsomely. And that is always that's a less sexy thing than pulling in a big portal haul, but it's a more important thing almost every single time if you've got a good team. Okay. Need to go supplement a bit in the portal if you want to legit compete with Texas Tech's talent. But, I mean, BYU is going to be there. And even last year's Texas Tech team did slip up and lose a game to Arizona State. Like, BYU should totally be in the mix here, once again, if Jay Hill is not a crippling loss. And I know the haters would tell you he is. I see the Utah Twitter narrative sometimes out there that, like, hey, look at what Sataki was on the hot seat before Jay Hill turned that defense around the last 2 years. Hey, there is some truth to that. I sat at Big 12 Media Day a couple of years ago where I listened to Tom Holmoe get questions about, like, hey, what's the thought with Kalani Sataki? Like, what's his job security like here, man? I know that was a thing. I lived it. I'm aware. But again, the fact that those players stuck around, I think, speaks to the culture. Obviously, they're going to like the fact that Poppinga was promoted to defensive coordinator, internal hire guy that's been around that helps too. And you can say, hey, I'm not sure about that guy. We've got to find out about him. I mean, all I know is that BYU's got a great culture and it makes sense that they would promote from within. And I expected that would probably be what happened, especially considering the personnel losses you'd be looking at if you didn't do that. All that led me to believe that was the likely scenario, but we do need to see how it works on the field. I'll admit that's something I'm in wait and see mode on. But all the other indicators are pointing very much in the direction of, like, BYU is going to be a contender for the Big 12 championship and once again be the number one contender to Texas Tech this year. Dangerous a little bit to say that because doing it year to year in the Big 12 right now, remember just 2 years ago, the narrative, oh, this is a wild, zany conference. No one's ever going to win it twice in a row or whatever. I put out a poll this week. Who's going to win more Big 12 titles over the next 5 years, Texas Tech or the field? It was like 60-40 Texas Tech. So people think we've got one team that's going to figure it all out now. But it does appear based on the off seasons that both Tech and BYU are having that they're going to be the teams that are leading this discussion next year once again to get to the Big 12 championship game.